Welcome back to World Insight. Almost a year after U.S. President George W. Bush relaunched Israeli-Palestinian peace talks at Annapolis, the initiative has lived up to the gloomy predictions of many at the time. The expectation for a peace deal remains, but the risks for both Israelis and the Palestinians in the coming year lie a lot closer to home.
The familiar tit-for-tat clashes have already resumed. A week ago Saturday, an Israeli airstrike against a Gaza rocket squad killed a Palestinian militant. It was the first death since Hamas militants formally declared an end to their 6-month truce. The truce had frayed since early November. The very next day, another 19 rockets fired from Gaza struck in southern Israel, and the Israeli military retaliated. The outgoing Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert promised decisive action against Hamas, the Gaza Strip ruler, when the time was right.
A responsible government is not happy to go to war, but does not evade it. I've said this in the past, and I'm saying it again now.
Though saying it would consider renewing the truce, Hamas showed a tougher stance.
We must not pay the price of this madness, this aggression, and this Zionist crimes.
Tensions are running high in the Middle East. Last year, Washington launched the latest peace drive in Annapolis. The hope was to shepherd Israel and the Palestinians toward a peace deal before President George W. Bush leaves office in January. Since then, sporadic talks between Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas have failed to bridge rifts over borders, refugees, and the status of Jerusalem. Israel's continued settlement expansion in the West Bank, along with a thickening network of settler roads, checkpoints, and barriers, has battered prospects for a two-state solution. Many see no peace deal between the two sides in the near future.
The issues that need to be solved remain the same. However, in the past year, the U.S., the main mediator, focused most of its attention on the new president and the financial crisis. And divisions among Palestinians and political instability in Israel have made the prospects of meeting Washington's deadline for a deal ever more elusive.
In 2007, after a brief unity government with rival faction Fatah collapsed, Hamas took full control of Gaza. And Fatah, seen by the U.S. and Israel as a potential partner in peace, now controls only the West Bank. Punitive U.S.-led efforts to isolate Hamas only worsened the split. A long-term blockade of Gaza, imposed by Israel and backed by Western powers, has destroyed the local economy. Long queues outside banks are now a common sight in the city. People rushed in as soon as banks opened, but most were turned back because of the cash shortage.
We came today to receive our salaries, but we are shocked that the bank says there is no cash. We're under siege and the situation of the country is miserable. The country is completely paralyzed. What are we waiting for? Is there going to be more of this destruction?
Fuel delivery has been cut and food remains available but in short supply and at high prices in the territory. About half of Gaza's 1.5 million residents are quickly running out of their most basic needs. But the harsh Israeli siege has failed to seriously weaken Hamas's hold on the narrow coastal territory. At the beginning of November, Hamas postponed the scheduled reconciliation talks with Fatah, undermining the attempts to proceed with the national dialogue.
The Palestinian dialogue must be resumed, even though Hamas has stopped. Yet, if the efforts fail once, they should be resumed time and again, because the Palestinian dialogue is an essential Palestinian interest and an actual Arab interest.
And Palestinians disagree over when President Mahmoud Abbas's term expires, with Hamas insisting he must step down in January. Abbas has called for presidential and parliamentary elections in April over objections from Hamas. Analysts say that Abbas looks likely to stay in office, but the fact is a division between the West Bank and Gaza is another major obstacle to peace.
A nationwide presidential election is hard to hold when the West Bank and Gaza are divided. What's more, Israel may not be willing to see a free election in Gaza because they've learned a lesson from their 2005 withdrawal from Gaza, which was followed by the Hamas takeover.
Israel also has leadership uncertainties. The country faces an election next year after Kadima leader Tzipi Livni failed to form a coalition to replace the one led by Olmert, who quit in September. Olmert is facing a possible indictment on charges of bribery and illegal enrichment. But he's stayed on as a caretaker prime minister until the election. The two front-runners to succeed him are Kadima party leader Tzipi Livni and Likud party chief Benjamin Netanyahu. The hawkish former prime minister Netanyahu leads in the polls.
We can't continue this way. We have to move from passive acceptance of rocketing on our cities and our towns to active defense. This is what is required.
If the Likud leader, who opposes major territorial concessions, is elected, that could complicate U.S.-backed efforts to push the peace process forward. Also, a week ago Saturday, a boat carrying international activists and humanitarian aid sailed into the coastal strip's small port in defiance of the Israeli blockade. Netta Golan was one of two Israelis on board the vessel.
I'm here in solidarity with the Palestinian people and with the people of Gaza. I came also to visit my friends and also in the hope that my coming here and then my subsequent arrest when I leave here will give me a voice, will make people hear what I have to say about the war crimes that are taking place, the crimes against humanity that are taking place in Gaza.
Palestinian residents from Gaza, who are desperate for aid, warmly welcomed Golan and her companions and the boat named Dignity.
Israelis and Palestinians are closing out 2008 without reaching their stated goal of a signed peace treaty by year's end. The task has been left to a new U.S. administration, a new Israeli government, and possibly a new Palestinian leader. Up next, reaching out to AIDS patients in China. You're watching World Insight. We'll be right back.